This should be a short presentation on the investment opportunities that may be revealed through an examination of the trade data. Right. The data that we're using was provided by the CARICOM Secretariat Statistical Unit from 2019 to 21. It doesn't include the Bahamas or any of the other CRFM states that are not part of the single market. It doesn't include Haiti as well. But I think we can still use it to show certain trends and to draw some conclusions. The idea is that trade data can reveal possible investment opportunities. And the more detailed it is, the more insight we have into the composition of the trade, the better guide it could be. But other information sources are certainly needed. So this is basically a broad brush approach. Certain messages stand out. In terms of value, CARICOM is a net importer of fish products, although this was not always so. So I think we have to delve a little deeply into what the causes are. In terms of extra-regional trade, that's trade either imports or exports to and from outside of the region. CARICOM countries tend to export high-value products. I mentioned tuna, finfish, shrimp, conch, etc., to the rest of the world, while importing lower-value products, such as dried, salted, smoked fish, canned mackerel, sardines, etc., in substantial quantities. And our exports tend to be mainly primary products or minimally processed products to the largest extent. In terms of trade within the region, what we refer to as intra-regional trade, there's a mixed picture. There are some high-value products that are traded, but for the most part, we're talking about fairly standard species. In addition, the trade tends to be deeper among neighboring countries within the region, with some notable exceptions. Picked up, for example, the trade in shrimp and prawns from Guyana and lobster from Belize to Barbados, as well as exports from Guyana and Suriname to Jamaica. And in fact, Jamaica appears to be the major importer of fish from within the region, mainly from Guyana and Suriname. So this is the sort of overall trade picture. You will see that our imports from outside of the region, the extra-regional imports, are around 180 million US dollars. While our exports to destinations outside of the region are somewhat less, about 40 million US dollars less, so that's a deficit. While our imports within the region, what each country imports from another CARICOM country, is substantially less. And this appears to be declining substantially. Our imports from outside of the region seem to be fairly stable, but our exports to non-CARICOM countries appear to be on the decline. So there's some concerning trends that seem to be developing. Still on the issue of imports from outside of the region, since that is one of our major concerns, as you heard in the introductory remarks. one of the categories, I tried to group them together: fresh, frozen imports of fish and crustaceans. These tend to be mainly of species that are not found within the region. Like, for example, salmon, some tunas. I understand that you have tropical as well as non-tropical tunas. Um, uh, tend to be to be predominant among the fresh frozen imports. But of course, there are other species as well. In terms of the crustaceans and mollusks, prawns, shrimps, crabs, lobsters, um, they are imported in significant quantities as well. Um, So the total imports of fish is 18 million, and shellfish, crustaceans, etc. I put them all together as one category, 10 million. So 28 million um, alone for fresh frozen imports. Um, the next category, which is the largest category, is dried, smoked, and salted fish of various types, mainly from Canada and the USA, but also from many other countries, from Spain, and I saw a long list of countries from which we import these products. Now, these are traditionally imported products for the region and remain important in our diets. It's a total of $134 million US, which I think is very significant. But as you will see here, our own production of these products is very limited. And then we have fish preparations, the more processed products, at 92 million. We'll look at each one in turn. Right, so for the dried, smoked, salted, um, this suggests that there is massive scope for investment in the production of such products. Um, I had been of the view some time back, maybe even back to the 80s, that Guyana had seemed poised to increase output in that area. And in fact, there has been some trade over the years, but the momentum seems to have fallen away. So what are the main constraints to ramping up production in this area? I hope we'll be able to get some answers from the participants here today. In relation to fresh frozen products, um, this doesn't come out directly from the data, but from my personal observation, there appears to be an increase in imports of consumer-ready frozen fish products. That's products that don't require much preparation, but only cooking, mainly for high-end purchasers. You see them in the supermarket, well packaged and presented, and possibly for the hotel trade and the restaurant trade. Um, the difference between the two wouldn't show up in the data because it's not that well disaggregated. So for purposes of monitoring, we may want to see whether our customs authorities are willing to make further disaggregations in the tariff so that we can track more closely the type of imports that are taking place. So the question again, what are the constraints to domestic producers or faced by domestic producers in entering that market? Again, some answers hopefully will come out from the discussion. And next we have the fish preparations category, 92 million. It includes a wide range of products, but in terms of our imports from outside of the region, we're talking here mainly about canned sardines, canned mackerel, and tuna. and the figures are there, 30, 25, 23 million together. That's quite a large category of imports that we don't seem poised to replace given the present makeup of our processing sector. In relation to intra-regional imports, that's trade within the region among CARICOM countries, we're talking here about 34 million US dollars. That's not a bad figure. It's about 19% of our imports from outside of the region. The figure could certainly improve, but it is not a devastating figure to start with. I've listed here some of the main categories: frozen trout, frozen tilapias, cod-like fish, and various mixed fish categories, more tilapia again. And in terms of crustaceans and so on, lobster is there, prawn, shrimp and prawns feature significantly in our intra-regional trade. However, in contrast to our imports from outside of the region, dried, smoked, salted fish totals only about 1 million US dollars of intra-regional trade compared to the 40 million from external sources. So the final question is, what are the problems that producers encounter in trading within the region? So in summary, the questions that suggest themselves to me have to do with the main categories of imports: the dried, salted, the fresh frozen. As I noted, there seem to be some further inroads from external sources in terms of what our consumers are presented with. Fish preparations, is there scope for developing a canning industry? Is it financially feasible, etc.? Inter-regional trade, are there problems with actually trading within the region that need to be resolved in order for us to increase that share of our total trade? Those are the questions that I would want to insert into the discussion.